y'all hear that? It sounds pretty smooth. As long as I do my part and mash that clutch all the way down, there's not any grinding. I need to make a prettier little button for that since we've got the turning lay. Need to turn the fuel off. Sometimes the float will stick in this carburetor and the fuel keeps it running, so I just try to keep it turned off. We're gonna have to address this right here real soon. If nothing else, I need to figure out some way to mount it up here because it's right in the way right there. Need to take the battery cables loose. So I want to thank Frog for fixing the tractor. He didn't want any pay, but I did make him take some money for it. I don't like anybody just doing anything for nothing. So Frog, if you're watching, I sure do appreciate it. So now we need to dress the Cub up, get it ready to start using. I'll show you what we're going to put on him. And I don't figure we'll get to use any of the equipment in this video. Everything's pretty wet, but we can get it all put on and ready so when it dries out, we'll be ready to take off. Oh yeah, and what we had to do to it is we put a new clutch in it. He put a clutch in it, put it all back together, still doing the same thing that it was before. Had to break the tractor down in two again, because y'all know every time that you replace a clutch, you have to break that tractor in half. The front end comes away from the back end. Well, we went back in there, tried to figure out what it was. He figured out that he thought it was the yoke and the pin that holds the yoke in. Right here, you see that bright shiny pin right there? That's the pin that holds the yoke arms. And the other one, I don't have it with me, I left it out at Frog's house. They were wallered out awful. And the arms, the holes in the arms were wore like, not hardly twice as big, but pretty big. You really couldn't tell until we got the new one in and compared them. And then you could see that the arms, the holes in the arms were wore real big. Now we could tell that the pin was wore because it had holler spots in the pin. So again, thank you Frog if you're watching. I've got all the equipment to it in here in the dry. I'll have to go through this and pick out what we need. I've got some extra arms that I have bought to use for spare parts. So I don't really remember which ones are which. It's just going to take me a few minutes to figure it out. If you hadn't ever seen how Cub implements are filed onto the tractor, hang around a few minutes, I'll show you how they go on there and how you move them around. It's real simple, it just takes a little bit of work. Some of this stuff I know I don't need right now. This plow point, I don't need it. This arm, it looks like that's an extra arm. These are my old disc killers. They're really made for a walk-behind tractor, I think. But they work on that Cub pretty good. But I've got some new ones that's a lot bigger, so I don't need those. And all these plow points, they're extras. I don't believe there's much in here I need other than these arms. I need these arms to go underneath the belly of the tractor. And I may need these, I don't know what these are called. They're what holds the implements onto the tractor. That should be all we need to get it ready to start plowing with. Let's see, we need our adjustable wrenches. You can put the plowing arms on it and the implements, no problem with just these two wrenches. Sometimes you need a hammer and a screwdriver, but most of the time just these two wrenches will work. That should have us ready to put the plows on. We're probably going to wait about the disc killers, because I've already hauled our potatoes out and pulled the dirt to them, and I think they're about got too tall for me to straddle with the tractor. So really what we need right now is just the plows, where we can go over here in the woods and plow that corn. What's left anyway, what the crows didn't get. I think both of these arms are about the same. I thought one of them was a little shorter than the other one actually, but they look like they're about the same length. It's amazing how simple the technology was back in the 40s. This is a 48 model, I think. 48 or 49, I can't remember exactly, but it's right there somewhere. These were designed and built by people that had went through the Depression. And they knowed how to make something out of nothing, I guess. Can you imagine this generation? What if we go through another depression like that and there's absolutely no work and you have to survive with your own two hands? I think we'd be in trouble nowadays. But back then, these people that designed and built this, they knew how to make something work. It just amazes me. How simple some of the design is on these old tractors. They were almost made to where you could keep them running with baling wire. Uh-oh, I put that in crossways. That won't work. There we go. That's all there is to that one. Just tighten it down, put your plow arm in there and tighten it down. That one's ready to go. Now we will have to set it in and out and up and down when we get to the field. These plows are made different. Some of them are a short shank and some of them are a little longer. I always try to make sure and get the short shank ones up and under the tractor. That way they don't hit the belly. And it looks like this one here is the one that goes on the other side. It's had the most grease on it. It hangs up and under the tractor, so that would make sense that it was the most greasy. So this one here, it should be the one that goes on this side. And it just slides up in here just like that. You tighten these nuts down on it and it holds it in place. The other plows, they go on these arms right here, and they're a little bit different than the way that one that I just showed you is. So I'll show you how you do these now. You take one of these, I don't know what they're called to be honest with you. I can't remember for the life of me right now. But I do know they slide on there like that. Now these plows have just a little longer shank than the ones that goes under the belly. You can see there's probably 1.5 inches difference. And most of the time, you'll have just a little bit bigger foot on your plow. You hold that pin up, you slide that keeper as far back as you can. And then this just slides up in there. You mash that pin back down, and that tightens everything up to where to hold it in place for you. And then you tighten your nut down on it to hold it there. So now all I need to do is tighten this nut down. There's a few more tricks to these. Once I tighten this nut as tight as I can get it by hand, I like to peck it right here, and that drives it on down. You can see that loosened that nut back up. Now you don't want to just overbeat it because you'll bust that little housing right there. That's made out of cast. But I've found just a few light pecks with a wrench or a small hammer usually is is plenty enough to hold it. And these are the same way as the ones in the front, and the same way as the ones that goes on the back. The one that goes on the back is held on exactly like this. It's just a bigger plow. Right here is the one that I'll put on the back. And they make different sizes of these. And that's to plow your track out. So that's basically all there is to dressing one of these little cubs up. It's just a little bit of manual labor. And the way they designed them back then, they're just so simple. They're so simple. Things today, they just don't seem to be made as simple and as strong as things were back then. They knew that these would be used. Possibly they thought that these would be used to feed families with, and probably were used to feed their families with. Maybe this will help somebody that's got one of these cubs and you're trying to figure out how to set your plows up. Once I get to the field, I'll set it down and I'll set everything the way I need to. Sometimes you have to make a couple of different adjustments. That's the way it looks with all the plows on it right here. This plow here, I still need to work on it. This goes up like that, and I need to brad it back on there. We got the plows on it and got it ready for when it gets dry enough to start plowing. I hope everybody's taking this time to learn how to grow your own food. Even if you just grow something small, one plant in a pot, just to get the feel of it. Maybe even to experiment with different fertilizers. And the time may come here in the near future that we have to feed our own family, and we don't rely so much on the grocery stores. Grocery stores are great, and I see nothing wrong with it. We use grocery stores all the time. And I'm also constantly trying to learn ways of growing food that's easier and that takes less store-bought equipment. Because if the time ever comes, I want to be ready to be able to feed my family and maybe to help neighbors around. Because Lord knows I'll need help from neighbors also. Just like this tractor. Good neighbors are hard to find. And when you find one, try your best to treat them the way you'd want to be treated. I thank you for watching. I pray God blesses you, and I'll see you in the next one.